Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be looking at some more rolling stock from America. I haven't tried very many Athearn products, but the ones I have seen have been relatively impressive, and everything I've heard about Athearn has generally been very positive. So when I saw this pack of 6 Athearn hoppers available on the Hatton's marketplace, I did not hesitate in placing a bid for them. And let me tell you, I managed to win these at a very decent price. So £43. That's about £7.20 for each of these 6 hoppers. That sounds really good, doesn't it? Now, I don't know how old these are, I don't know what sort of spec these models have. I've looked them up online and haven't even been able to find an RRP for them. So, you know, if these are really old, then maybe £7.20 will be the right price. But if they have decent metal wheels, which I think they do, a good level of detail, then I think that would definitely place these into bargain territory. So we're going to check these out today, see what they're like. If you want to check out the Hatton's marketplace, it's like an auction site basically for model trains. I will pop an affiliate link down in the description for you. But yeah, for now, let's get these hoppers out. Let's find if they're as good as I'm hoping they're going to be, and let's have some fun with them. Here we go. So actually thinking about this, I'm going to change my mind because these cannot be anything other than an extreme bargain at £43. I mean, unless they fall to pieces as soon as I look at them, unless they constantly derail and are completely useless, then these have got to be a bargain, haven't they? Because they're bogie hoppers, as you can see. So there's 4 axles with wheels on each of these wagons. And these days, a single axle would set you back at least £1. So 4 out of the £7 of each of these wagons can be attributed solely to the wheels, which means it's £3 for the rest of the wagon. As far as I'm concerned, these would have to be terrible in order not to be considered a bargain at that price. It does say up here, coal loads included, so these have loads as well. That's just really impressive, isn't it? At this price anyway. And if I show you the end of the box, you can see this is product code 70828. It is the GM&O 34-foot 2-bay hoppers, and I believe those numbers at the bottom are the running numbers, so that's really cool as well. You've got different hoppers. I mean, they're obviously going to be the same model, but they've got different running numbers on them, so that's really cool. Okay, so there's not a great deal else to see on the box, so I think it's time to lift the lid and see what we get inside. I've had these for quite a while now, but I have not yet opened the box. I did hear something moving around underneath them, so it might just be an advert or something. Oh no, it's not, clearly not. So let's have a look at this then. So 34-foot open top hopper. And you know what? It looks like there's quite a bit of detail to these. You can see these are not just a body with wheels on. Yeah, there's several different detailing pieces there. Looks like a brake wheel. Yeah, really quite impressive. Looks like quite a detailed chassis as well. So this, I think, bodes very well. Let's have a look at one of them then. So I'm not going to go into great detail on each of them, but we'll have at least a close look at one of them. Okay, so how does this come off? It's going to pop off, isn't it? The front. There we go. Well, at least they're securely packaged. I'll give them that. Right, which one am I going for? Let's go for the bottom corner first. Yeah, quite a snug fit in there. And here we go. Here it is up close. So first of all, look how fine that coal load is. Good Lord. Yeah, that's really something, isn't it? So it's a decent coal load. What's underneath it, I wonder? Yeah, realistic detail. Quite a few moulding marks inside there, but certainly rivets and such. Certainly not too bad given the fact that there is a coal load that fits over it. The finish on them is really nice. Yeah, that looks great. And sure enough, the level of detail, while not extreme by any means, looks to be absolutely fine. I think for the price, these seem to be about right, don't they? So let's get the rest of these out. I'm interested to know how much they weigh. They don't seem like dreadfully heavy hoppers, but they seem adequate. And like I said, the last time I looked at some hoppers, and I've been doing quite a lot of them recently, haven't I? You don't really want that much weight on them. Obviously, they need to be heavy enough to be stable, but if you're putting a massive train of them together, which is quite common with HO layouts and such, You don't want them to be too heavy, otherwise obviously they are going to just cause too much drag. But yeah, these all seem fine. The condition seems okay. I've noticed on one or two of them the wheels on the end here are damaged, and I don't think I was aware of that when I was purchasing them. But again, at the price I paid, I'm not going to complain too much. So let's take a close look at one of these hoppers. I'll give you a better look at some of the detail and the features, and then of course we'll put these hoppers together and check how they perform. Should be fun. To be completely fair to Athearn here, this model is probably not representative of a new-tooled 2022 Athearn model, because like I say, I don't know how far these models date back. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with these models at all. They're absolutely fine, particularly for what I paid. However, it's quite unfortunate because it's not that long since I reviewed those Bachmann hoppers. And I've got to be honest, the Bachmann hoppers in most areas were much better than these Athearn ones. And again, to be clear, that makes perfect sense because the Bachmann hoppers certainly cost me a lot more. And I will happily acknowledge that these Athearn hoppers are probably the better value of the two models. However, if we put the price out of the equation, this is a slightly poorer model, I think, than the Bachmann ones. I think the fidelity of the moulding is not quite as clear and crisp. There's certainly less detail on the underframe on the Athearn version. Not that that's hugely important, but it is certainly noticeable. The coal load in the top certainly has more detail on the Athearn, but it also has more of a matte finish, which doesn't catch the eye quite as much from a distance. And so actually, if we're talking from any sort of distance, it is the Bachmann coal load that actually looks more detailed, even though that's not the case. The interior detail on the Athearn hopper is not quite as good as the Bachmann. It's got quite a plasticky finish inside. There's less detail and less quality as well because of those moulding marks. Again, not a huge deal, but certainly noticeable. And then the quality of the wheels is slightly poorer on the Athearn examples as well, because as you can see, they do just have plastic axles, unlike the Bachmann, which had metal axles. Now in practice, that might not cause a problem at all, and sure, I'll be happy to eat my words if these roll as well as the Bachmann hoppers did, but as you can see, the fact that the plastic axle is a little bit weaker than a metal axle does mean that the wheels are inclined to wobble a little bit. That probably won't be noticeable during performance, but as you can see, it is slightly noticeable here on closer inspection. However, forgetting about the Bachmann model, for £7.20 each, and yes, that is a second-hand price technically, these are still really decent. So the finish on them is good, I think. Yeah, there's a definite satin finish to them, makes them look a bit less plasticky than they would if they had a pure matte finish. The moulded detail is by no means bad. Yeah, there's plenty of rivets visible and such, and there's also a fair bit of decoration too, which is all sort of monochrome. It's just the white printing, but it looks absolutely fine. The detailing is okay as well. I mean, there's plenty of fidelity in the ladders here. You've got what the instructions refer to as the brake set, plenty of detail there. Really nice to see some detail underneath the hopper body as well. The brake wheels, these are separately fitted parts. I'm not going to blame Athearn entirely for the fact that some of those were broken because, like I say, these were not bought brand new. However, the packaging design doesn't seem to be the best because, as you can see, those brake wheels do brush against the packaging as you take the models in and out of the box, so it's not entirely surprising that those were damaged. And then the last thing is the couplings. These are the standard sort of KD style couplings, except these ones are just made of plastic. Again, I don't really see any problem with them being made of plastic, but I will point out that they are plastic and not metal. So for £7.20, the value for money here is absolutely awesome. Very pleased. And obviously I've got 6 of them, so that will definitely boost my rake of American rolling stock. The quality is all right. There's certainly nothing wrong with the quality, but I think we have seen better, both in quality and also detail, in fact, in that Bachmann hopper. The weight, however, is pretty good. These are a few grams heavier, in fact, just 2 or 3, but heavier nonetheless than the Bachmann hopper at 70 grams, which is quite good, although don't forget with the Bachmann, you had the option to make the model a little bit lighter if you wanted to by removing those steel weights. And this model does have steel weights in it, but I'm pretty sure they're incorporated into the model. I think this is them. And so it's not just a case of whipping those out, and hey presto, you've got a lighter hopper. but still I don't think that's a major complaint. Okay, so the level of detail is fine. I think the real test is going to be performance. These need to be really free rolling, I think. They need to be reliable, they need to stay on the track, they need to couple correctly. Let's test all of this and see how we get on. So here is today's test setup. We've got all 6 hoppers down onto the track and they look like quite a hefty little rake together, don't they? And then I've got the little Porter tank engine here, which is just, you know, a decent little loco, I think. Also good value, like the hoppers, and I think she'll haul them without any problems. Having said that, as suspected, these are not the most free-rolling hoppers in the world. In fact, significantly less so than the Bachmann ones. On the Gordon's Hill rolling test, I tried several of these hoppers and none of them performed that well. In fact, none of them even got beyond the signal box, which is quite surprising. And like I say, all of them were the same in this regard. It wasn't just a one-off. Compare that with the Bachmann hoppers and yeah, you can see just how much further these guys went under exactly the same conditions, I might add. Now, there's nothing terribly wrong with them. I mean, they're not stiff or anything, you know, they seem to move quite nicely. But the fact of the matter is, a loco will struggle to haul these Athearn hoppers more than they would struggle with the Bachmann hoppers, and as a result, a loco would be able to haul less of the Athearn hoppers. So it is worth bearing in mind. Anyway, let's couple the Porter tank engine up to the Athearn hoppers. By the way, coupling these hoppers together for the first time went without a hitch. Yeah, all of the couplings seem to function just fine. And looking at it, it looks as though the Porter has coupled to them just fine. Yeah, as you can see. So the couplings definitely seem to be perfectly functional, but how do they handle the layout? How do they handle curves? Let's find out. So it's quite a slow and steady loco, this one, which I think works quite well for freight. Here we are on the second radius, of course no problems with the Bachmann hoppers here, and it looks as though the same is true for the Athearn ones, so that's fine. So at the end of the day, you know what? Yes, these are budget models, and yes, there are better models out there. I think that is always going to be true. But when you consider what I paid, they do look okay. And at the moment, they seem to be performing just fine as well. So for the right sort of money, these are perfectly adequate, I think. Very, very nice. Oh. Well, that's not good. So we've got a coupling fail there, have we? Let's have a look at those couplings and then let's try that again. Right, so the couplings seem to be in fine condition. Yep, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with either of those. However, on closer inspection, rather than using springs to actuate the knuckle, there's just a bit of springy plastic, which seems like a bit of a cheap and nasty solution, particularly when I think basically every other model I've looked at has used a real spring instead of just, you know, a bit of plastic that bends. So could that be the issue? I'm not sure, but let's try that same test again up Gordon's Hill, see if we can get a repeat of that, or maybe it was just a one-off. Right, let's try again. Hopefully that will have just been a one-off, but let's find out. So it was the third hopper along that uncoupled, I think. It was somewhere, yeah, same again. It's rolling away. Right, so this time I've swapped, well, I've basically changed the direction of the 2 hoppers that uncoupled. So we'll see what happens now. Might have just fixed the problem. Yes. But to reiterate, there was nothing visibly wrong with either of the couplings that failed to stay coupled. Yeah, just not convinced by the quality of those couplings now. Yeah, I completely understand that these are probably budget models and they are made to a probably quite a tight budget, but you know, if you've got couplings that are a bit too cheap so that they're not functional anymore, then it kind of defeats their purpose, because even budget models, of course, need to be fully functional. But it does seem as though they will at least stay coupled if I, if I couple them up in a certain order, which is not convenient, but at least I can make them function together. And it looks like it was just that one coupling that was the problem, so it's no excuse, I'm not excusing it at all, but it doesn't seem to be a very, very widespread issue, at least not among the 6 hoppers that I've got here. So since I've lost a bit of faith in the couplings here, I think a successful backwards run over these dodgy points would do a lot to restore some of that faith. So let's see what happens here. hopefully everything will stay coupled. I'm quite confident that everything will stay on the track. I mean, I could be proved wrong, but if everything stays coupled, that will be the clincher for me. Let's see. Not too fast. Yeah. So far so good. Let's go over the other set just to be absolutely certain. Relatively sudden stop, everything stayed coupled, or so it seems. Yeah. And forwards. Take it steady again, not too fast. And so far this is looking really good. Right, so it does seem as though the issue that I found with the couplings is quite a minor one, and it doesn't seem to be causing a lot of trouble. In fact, since I swapped the direction of those couple of hoppers, I've not had a problem again. Let's go a bit faster and do a sudden stop in reverse, just see if we can cause them to uncouple in any way. Nah. Right, so I think it's not a big issue. Yeah, happy to say, not a huge issue. Let's do some ratings then for the Athearn 34-foot hoppers. And as you can see, yeah, the score isn't too bad. I gave the Bachmann hoppers a 4-star on detail, and because we've established that these hoppers are slightly less detailed than the Bachmann ones, I've given this a 3-star. Absolutely fine though. For a budget modeler, these are easily adequate. The performance is not that great, to be honest with you. I've given it 3-star. Much less free rolling than the Bachmann hoppers by a long way. I think the Bachmann's probably doubled the amount of rolling distance in my test. And in my opinion, it is the quality of the couplings that has led to those reliable uncouplings that I saw during that initial test. Not a massive problem, but I do have to reflect it in the score, unfortunately. The quality I've given 3-star. Generally the build quality is okay. I'm not going to mark down the broken brake wheels because I can't guarantee that it wasn't a previous owner that was responsible for that. That is why I usually like to buy brand new models to review, and that damage was not mentioned on the listing, nor was it shown in the photos, so I had no way of knowing about that. Moulding marks on the interior which make it a little bit less realistic, and of course those cheap plastic couplings with no springs. Not terrible quality, but I think it could have been better. The value for money though, I can't fault, so I've given 5-star at £7.20 each, or £43 for the whole set. I think that has to be 5-star. Couldn't find an RRP though, which I think is quite lucky. If these are normally available much more expensively, then the value would obviously be significantly less than 5-star. Overall though, that is 7.21 out of 10, which is interestingly 1 pence off the price at £7.20. Yes, I'm sure you greatly appreciate me pointing that out, I did notice. And let's put it into the ranking or the logbook, wiping the slate clean of course for the beginning of the new year, and this gets us started quite nicely in top place. Yeah, absolutely fine. For budget models, these do the job. Well then folks, I think overall I am quite happy, because at the end of the day the aim of the game was to bulk up my collection of American rolling stock, and this proved to be a very cost-effective way of doing that. These did not cost me a lot of money, and they are basically fully functional, aren't they? I will be able to use these in reviews, and I'm sure they'll look quite good as I do so. So for my purposes, and possibly for yours too, these are just the job. So I think I could recommend these to you. You need to manage your expectations, you need to realise there are better models out there, but of course those better models cost a lot more, and so in terms of value, there's no problem with these at all. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Please comment down below if you've got any thoughts at all on these. How do they compare with Athearn's other products? Do they normally produce wagons that are better than this? Are these better than normal from Athearn? Yeah, I'd love to know. For now though, thanks for watching once again. I'll catch you on the next one. Alright, cheers everybody, take care.